Hello everybody, I'm Peter Gifford. This is the Esoteric Order of Gamers. Welcome! You may remember that recently I did a video on the Promethean Refinery by Warcradle Studios. It was a lovely large piece of terrain for Wild West Exodus. You could also use it for other sci-fi and steampunk games. Well, I'm very lucky because they sent me some more terrain. I must have liked that last video. This one is the Buckhorn Ranch Farmstead, and this one is the Buckhorn Ranch Scatter. Well, it's not the scatter, it's a bunch of scatter terrain. I'm going to put these two sets together, show you what they look like, and if you're in the market for Wild West steampunk kind of stuff, either for historical games or for Wild West Exodus, you may be very interested to see how these turn out. So let's get started. And here we have it, the Buckhorn Ranch. Now there are other parts to this full ranch set. You can buy them separately. You can also buy them all in one go if you want. But here we've got the homestead and some scatter terrain. There's a chicken coop, and we've got this sort of water silo, a tractor, and some hay bales and stuff like that. So the main thing here is this homestead. Now you can also get a lodge, and there's also a barn, and a wheat silo, so you could make an entire farm if you wanted to, if you were using this for Wild West Exodus or any Wild West game. It'd be perfectly suited for that kind of thing. So this is a pretty impressive figure. This one first, model, terrain piece. Really nice thing to, base a game around if you're, attacking the homestead or something like that. It comes in 3 levels. So you can get right into the levels, and we've got some nice stairs inside the bottom level here, a veranda and everything, of course. Then we've got this level which goes on top, and this has this nice little seat sitting here, and that sort of hangs from here. Of course you can detach it if you want to, and when it sits on there you've got a nice little hanging seat on the front, which is lovely. And then you've got this top piece here. Now you may want to, you can do this and look into there. Now what I did here is I glued, following the instructions, I glued the roof onto this bit. But of course there's another level up in here, so I suggest not gluing one of these. I'll probably pull this off and come up with some way to attach it that isn't permanent, because there's another level in there, and also you've got a little ladder going up through a trapdoor as well. So you want to make sure you don't glue both bits on the top if you want to access that top level. Of course I'll be using these for tabletop miniatures games, so I don't usually need to access all the multi-levels and everything. Though I suppose if you're putting models in there and they're going through the building, anyway. So there's some lovely features to this. It's got a steampunk feel as well. There's a sort of gear-driven fireplace here on the back, which is kind of impressive. There's a clock hanging from the side, lights, light fittings coming out, and of course you've got 2 doors on the bottom level that open and close, which are very nice as well. So a lovely amount of detail this, and it's quite impressive. It's not too hard to build, however I did have some problems. Now the good thing about these sets I noticed is that they actually numbered the pieces, so instead of just guessing which bit is which happened a bit with the Promethean Refinery, this one they actually have references to numbers or codes, which is great and makes it easier to build. However, we've still got that problem that sometimes the actual pictures of putting things together are from too much of a distance and you can't see exactly where to put things. And also there's this thing of where you show putting 2 pieces together and it's not clear. You really have to have a diagram next to it showing those 2 bits in place, so you know you've done the right thing. So I just feel with the construction rules that are online, it just needs a little bit more work to make it clearer. I think that they should just have a look at that and try and come up with ways to make it a little bit clearer, because there are some points where you think, what's going on here? I've kind of got to guess. Just make sure you do your dry fitting before you glue. That's the main thing. The other thing I did when I built this set is I used latex gloves. Because I was super gluing this together, the last time I built one, I got the sort of black from the edges where the MDF has been cut and the super glue on my fingers into this horrible black encasing stuff, which took days to wear off. This time I avoided all that by wearing latex gloves, and it was great. Occasionally, of course, the glove can get stuck to things, so be careful. but on the whole, it made the building process a lot cleaner and easier. Now, the problem I had with this one is I felt that there was a little mistake in this second level here, and that in one case, one of the long walls pointed out a little bit too much. I think there was a slight error. Now, I checked it over and over again, and I couldn't find user error, so it may be a problem with the build. However, it was pretty easy to fix. I just had to basically cut off a bit so it matched up properly, and you can see it doesn't affect the build in any, appreciable aesthetic way. So that was easily fixed. Sometimes you've got to tweak things a little bit to, get things to work. But on the whole, it's a very nice build and pretty easy to do. So that's that. A nice big impressive building for Wild West tabletop games, or indeed, role-playing games. If you're doing Wild West role-playing, you could use these as well. We've got some hail bales, nothing special here. They're just a whole lot of pieces stuck together to give you some hail bales. Little chicken coop, which is cute. So this thing here is your water tower. As you can see, it's got quite a detailed kind of what is supposed to be metal railing at the bottom holding it up. Now, be very careful with this because it is quite fragile, and what I did when I was gluing some bits together, I used a little bit too much force and managed to break some of the pieces here. It's not a big deal, I find, but just learn from my mistakes and be careful, because these thin bits of MDF can be quite fragile and easy to break, especially if you're applying any force to get something into a slot or something like that. But I like this, and I particularly like up the top there, you've got what is a kind of water pattern on the top piece, so it looks like it's filled with water, which is nice. I love the ladders coming up the sides and the spout, so this is a very nice little terrain piece, love that. Similarly, we've got a little well. This one's weird. I like the well. The bucket is a bit silly. It's really tiny and it's just sort of hanging off there. It feels like they sort of gave up when they got to the bucket. It could have been a little hanging thing like we've got on the front of the Homestead, but instead it's just part of the crossbar and it looks a bit silly. So I might have just chop that off. The good thing is that you can enhance these things as well. I mean, of course they're pre-painted, so they've got colours, so they look fine to use straight away. But there's no reason you can't paint these to make them look more realistic. You can also do things like, for this, for example, I would chop off that little bucket and get a little piece of rope or string to use as rope, and you could wrap it around the side and have it trailing into the well. There's lots of little things you can do to make them look even more realistic if you want to go that far. We've got quite a nice little tractor here, which is a bit of industrial stuff for this farmstead. That works pretty well. It's got all the engine, because it's made up of multiple layers of pieces of MDF, it's got a nice feel of getting into the engine and everything there, which is great. And then finally some little fence pieces, which nothing special. They're just one piece with three side pieces attached to them to hold them up, but scattering these around a tabletop can just add that level of detail to make things a little bit more interesting, and also break up charge lines and running lines and everything, so they have to jump over fences. So that works pretty well. So all in all, another few examples of some lovely Warcradle scenic terrain. I love this stuff. It's very easy to build. Of course, you don't have to paint it because it's got textures and color on it already. You can just slap it straight on the tabletop, which I think is good. It's very solid and feels much more solid than if you're using papercraft or anything like that. The MDF makes it feel really good, and it's got a lot of character. I think they're really nice terrain pieces, and it's always good to get some big buildings on the tabletop as well to be the focus of combats and things like that. Thank you very much, Warcradle, for sending me this set. It's been a pleasure to show it to you. I hope you've enjoyed it. I will see you next time. There's lots more coming about all types of different types of gaming. Unlike many channels, I don't specialise in one particular type of game. I love tabletop miniatures games. I love board games. I love board games with miniatures. Anything that's immersive and imaginative and fun, I'm on top of it. So we'll see you next time. Thanks everybody. Bye for now.